well, nope. There we are. We are live with Spencer Tatum, all the way in Scottsdale, Arizona. How is it? Let me guess. Really freaking hot over there in Scottsdale, Arizona.
It's not been that bad. The summer has been actually been relatively mild for us. So still like we get some 90s coming up and drop into the 70s. So that will be exciting. We're still in the thick of heat, but overall it's been good. Not bad.
And Spencer, I feel like I was looking you up before we went live here, and you haven't been on a lot of podcasts. You've been doing a lot of work the last 4 years or so. Is it before the pandemic? You were a little bit more around.
We did some after that, but yeah, mainly that's time frame. So
Yeah.
around the pandemic area, and then we've kind of been just really focused on business operations and new products are developing. So it's a good to get back on.
Yeah, glad to have you. THP, tell us about THP.
Yeah, it's simple. It's Tatum Human Performance. We're based out of here in Scottsdale, Arizona. Our mission is very simple. How do we optimize human performance and unlock human potential? And we do that a lot through our diagnostics and testing, using, movement screens to in-body to force plays to Proteus motion. Allows us to really understand what really needs to happen. We try to take a sniper approach and bring a performance model to the general public, which has been a huge success, and doing a little bit of the digital side too. So it's been a lot of fun. I have a fantastic team here that really works hard and really understands the mission and really drives that culture every day.
I love it, man. So yeah, and we have some overlap going all the way back to the OPT, now OPEX days, going way back on that, and then also FMS and SFMA. I took my FMS course and TPI, all the letters for anyone following who doesn't know any of those letters. I don't know that we need to break it all down, but FMS is kind of the big umbrella, right? Is Gray Cook, the main dude, and I took my course back with Kyle Kiesel at Michael Boyle Strength and Conditioning Facilities.
Kyle.
And Kyle, I think, has recently left. I think he's doing a lot of crypto stuff. It looked like. Is that what I saw? Did you see that?
Yeah, I haven't really seen what Kyle's been up to recently, but he was one of the main guys for a long time. Kyle's a great guy, super knowledgeable. So
yeah, I was curious about his story, why he moved on to the, look like more of the finance space. But hey, everyone has their path and journey. That's why we tell the stories. That's why we catch up. That's why we connect. Shout out to Eric Malzone, also the podcast collective, putting us together. Eric was on here a little while ago, and so he put us in touch. And excited to again dive into this. So you're Tatum Human Performance in Scottsdale, Arizona. You're mentioning virtual stuff. How are you feeling about virtual training in the space? As somebody who's in that space, I'm also in that space. Do you feel like that is emerging? Do you just think it's always going to be a part of this moving forward? Where do you think that's going in the future of fitness? Shout out to, again, Eric Malzone.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting one. If you start looking at it, I think now if you don't have some type of virtual product, right, you're kind of missing the checkbox of companies when they kind of check you out, like making sure you have some type of digital platform. I think is a necessity now in the industry. And the other side of it is you have to understand what business do you want to be in. Are you going to be servicing brick and mortars in a brick and mortar and really delivering great in-person experiences? On the digital side, the digital side, as you know, is harder, right? It's harder to do overall, right? Because you have to think about all the things you do in person, all the little nuances or things you pick up that you just do automatically. Like you have to think about how does it come across the digital side. On the digital side, also too, I think that you will eventually see that process will eventually be automated using if the right data is collected in the initial intake. The whole program design process could be automated to a degree using AI and machine learning, right? I know a lot of people throw it around, but if you have the right data, you're capturing the right data, and then you have the right model to go with it, like that's going to be a really thing that can really solve a lot of problems for most people. And the other side of it, then it's going to be really be a great coach of how do you make behavior change with people.
Yeah, behavior change seems to be the trick of it all. I think, again, shout out to James Fitzgerald, OPT, OPEX now. I think we a lot of folks, including Eric, yourself, have a lot of roots in that. How much do you feel like your current practice working with clients is influenced? Is that a big foundation of everything you do? What we learn?
Yeah, I mean, James had a huge influence on me. I mean, we met James in maybe around like 2012. and was a part of his community for a long time. And James is a very unique thought leader. I have a lot of respect for him. Everything he's built it was fascinating to watch and see him go from when he just moved from Alberta here. We were working over there at Dr. Drobot's place to the next building into the last building he had, which is great. And the education model he built, I think, was just fantastic. And um, so I have a lot of respect for James, and also the other people we mentioned, Gray and Greg Rose, and those guys. Like those are all been foundational building blocks into systems integration over here at THP.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it speaks to something I talk about in my content a lot is it's this accumulation or combination of different systems coming together to form this new hybrid of THP or my fit care business here, and it's really interesting to see again, and I keep coming back to when I have some awesome guests like yourself on the show here of it sounds like on these individual levels everyone's doing their business, everyone's making their reach as big as possible, but do you have any hope? I guess the question becomes for people coming together, either as an industry. Seems the fitness industry is despite having these conversations, these podcasts are a dime a dozen, and anyone out there listening, we appreciate your time and choosing us here. But I guess the question becomes: do you have any hope again for the fitness industry, public health, the bigger picture? As you're seeing it outside of again what you're doing one on one, is it going to take an AI? Is it going to take a product, a Google, a Whoop, somebody to come together? I was listening to another podcast. I feel like we're missing that Mr. Rogers or Jack LaLanne to bring everyone together. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you see any hope for that big public health picture.
Well, it's a complicated issue when you're dealing with complex people, right? That are all on different levels. So I think that's a big movement we definitely need to get to. I would love to see that happening. I think it needs to happen in some form or some fashion. When does it happen? I don't know. But the most powerful thing is we're starting to collect enough of the right data, right? Whether that's through Whoop or movement screening. Now it's putting all the data together and really combining it, right? And really looking at what really matters, what do we know, and using the machine learning to really drive, like, well, maybe we're missing this step, or maybe we're looking at it from the wrong lens, right? Maybe we're not totally wrong, but we're missing the integration, because you think overall healthcare, we don't do a good job of systems integration. We don't do a good job of looking at how the whole. We're very good at specializing in hip surgery or specializing in orthopedics or diabetes, whatever. But how does systems integration happen? How does stress management, behavior change, nutrition, fitness, how does it all work together? I think when we talk about public health, like all of those systems need to be factored in.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to argue with any of that. And again, I guess the other question: do you take in a lot of podcasts yourself at this point?
I was on the podcast train for a long time, and I still listen to quite a bit, not as much as I used to, just because I just felt like I was getting sensory overload, and
Yeah.
a lot too many thoughts going in the head. And then also then it was I get very, when I get going, I want to go deep into something. And
Hmm.
having 3 kids, 6, 4, and 2, you also want to make sure you're present, right? And being present for when you show up in your workplace and working with your team and working with people you coach in your community, right? So sometimes I had to kind of like back off a little bit, but I think they're fantastic. The work that you guys are doing is much needed, right? It brings a lot of value and really drives thought and innovation.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the connecting question there, because if you're familiar with Peter Attia, Huberman, Dr. Rhonda Patrick, some of these names that are out there. I mean, what I'm seeing is science kind of rising. There's definitely a little bit. It's almost a libertarian model where the cream will rise to the top. Again, we're coming from a bit of a CrossFit, functional fitness
Mhm.
space, right? That was the idea. Is Greg Glassman, all controversies aside, he kind of famously said, I don't care. He's not going to have a Starbucks model or where you can't open within a certain distance of another CrossFit. Where he said, hey, you can open right across the street, and the people will decide. If you're a really good coach, if you're getting results, people are going to come to you. I feel like that's the same kind of in podcasts right now, where again, Huberman, Lane Norton, another one I want to shout out, calling out a lot of the BS that's out there, because some people have definitely found their voice with kind of pseudoscience. But I
Mhm.
feel like, I don't know if you feel that same hope or the possibility that since it's all out there, as people grow in their reach, it's also they're going to get knocked down as they get caught in things. And Huberman had his own controversies recently. Without going into all the specifics of all this stuff, I guess the question to boil it back down is, again, if you think this is, you kind of said this is you appreciate the work we're doing here in the podcast space, but yeah, I don't know if it seems like the cream is rising to the top a little bit. We're getting a little bit more honed in again through the Atias, the Hubermans. Their books do really well. It seems that again things are escalating in a positive way. I don't know if you feel that way. You're getting that sense just from
100%. I mean, the questions we get now are completely different than the questions we got even 5 years ago, right? Or 3 years ago, right? Just because of all the knowledge that's being out there and being shared. Now, the other side of it, I think there's it gets the lines get blurry between true science and business, right? When you start getting paid for advertisements and stuff like that, like sometimes lines get blurred of what you believe in, and just that's good enough, and it's good revenue coming in. I mean, I'm a big fan and work a lot with Andy Galpin. Andy's
That
phenomenal.
reminds me, I'm sponsored by drinkelement.com/fitcare. Everyone go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, to get it. No, I think it's awesome. I think it's awesome that the stuff's coming in, but I also think we get it. We might be making a little bit more complicated what it is, because if you look at the whole biohacking thing, if you get good sleep, you eat your fruits and veggies, eat enough protein, hydrate, get some exercise, get some sunshine, have healthy relationships, and manage your stress. Like that's 90% of biohacking, right? Let's be 100% real. But if those biohacking tools help you have a win and start feeling like you're winning again, let's do it, right? And it helps improve performance and recovery. Let's do it. So I think it's great. But I also think we really need to make sure we're really doing the basics really well before we implementing higher order strategies.
Yeah, and I think also we're starting to see this, the people fading out. You see the 25-year-old with a six-pack that can't maintain that when they turn 30. Now that,
Right.
podcasting and the internet has been around, going, let's say back to, I think 2010 or so, when early generation iPhones kind of people started, turning them around and putting themselves online. So we're starting to see a little bit of that again, I think. And again, I'm hopeful that we're seeing this evolution. Speaking of evolution, THP, you mentioned you had some new products before we went online. Love to hear about what you got going on there.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we're working on is bringing markerless motion capture to the market. I think motion capture is a kind of a space that there's a lot of stuff out there, but not a lot of good validated stuff. So we get some really great partners that we're working with to bring a validated technology into the space to really, help really understand things we can't normally see with the trained eye or we make mistakes on. And the other side of it is to elevate everybody onto speaking the same language, right? So we want to make it to where it's kind of like your weather report, right? When you get your weather report, you don't really question it. So if you get your movement screen from the motion capture system, like you're like, that's truth, right? That's real. And then really make it applicable for coaches and practitioners to really understand it, right? That's the whole thing. User experience, user interaction, I think is going to be the whole thing, because if we can get the right information to coaches can make the right decision, right? If we're all looking at the right information, it's going to be extremely powerful. So that's one thing we're really looking at, and it's kind of cool. Like once you've done the research and start looking at it, how you can look at onset dementia through gait mechanics, that's been captured, motion capture screening, mental health, right? And sit and stand, like how far you lean forward, how long it takes you to stand up, dictates your mental health, right? So it's been really cool to see the vast application, because if you think about movement is a transversal language of humans, right? Like everybody moves. You may not be able to speak, you may not be able to hear, but most people can move unless they're quadriplegic or paraplegic. So it's a cool thing to kind of see come about, this technology, but you're probably like me, like it was only in our biomechanics labs, right? Which was, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And now we're gonna be able to bring it on scale for affordable for coaches. I mean, that's extremely cool.
Yeah. What are you looking at in terms of like practicality with movement analysis? Again, I think anyone listening probably pictures, and I think in the video I got shared there, it's not just the little dots on all across the body. It's just looking at the 3D, assessment of how we're moving. But yeah, how do you see that moving towards, injury prevention or performance enhancement. Again, I've been around it, and I've thought, yeah, again, naked eye, like you're talking about, most personal trainers, physical therapists are able to hopefully provide some of that feedback and say, hey, your knee's collapsing when you're doing that. As a teenage soccer player, maybe that's making you more likely to an ACL tear. Let's work on this, and let's reassess how that movement pattern looks on the field. You work with a lot of high-end golfers. Golf has an TPI, Titleist Performance Institute. I also I got to the medical 2. I'm assuming you've gone somewhere above that in your time there. But yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of all those systems and how they integrate. And if I had more passion for the sport of golf, I'd be probably a much wealthier man, because I could probably help a lot of guys get 10 extra yards on their drive just from simple things. But a long story short, I guess my question becomes, how do you see that integrated? Is this the kind of thing maybe in 5 years we're going to get on our iPhones? We could just pop it up and say, boom, you have this, knee, hip thing going on, and here's how we might be able to address it.
Yeah, I think let's just try that for a second, because like when you do iPhone motion capture, right? Yes, it's 2D motion capture compared to 3D motion capture. There's a significant difference and when you do 2D motion capture, you're using pose estimation, right? So now you're putting in synthetic data that you're hoping is not hoping, you're pretty close to what's good enough, right? It's great for limb tracking, it's great for those simple things, but the data's not accurate enough or at a high fidelity enough that it's actually usable for research, to build products, to really be impactful data source to like train large language models on, right? Which is like what your chat GPT is. So with this, like we've been able to do it with off-the-shelf cameras, camera agnostic. So we were able to do it with we've done it with iPads, but we can really probably do it with GoPros. And as long as you're in the movement, if you're just a movement screen, you can do it with like a 2 to 4 camera system. But if you're doing rotational movements like pitching, hitting a golf ball, whatever, you're gonna need a 6 to 8 camera system. But I mean, we're talking off-the-shelf GoPros, right? Not Vicon cameras that are $5,000. I mean, that's going to be extremely rad to think about for a second, to really just think about what can you do with that. And really, I think the other side of it, it's going to create a whole marketplace business to where you can be in Boulder, Colorado. Somebody can be here, go through their movement screen on the motion capture system, connect with you, send you the data, and they never have to come see you. You can either consult with them on patient care, or you consult with their physio or person here in patient care, because you're the expert, right? So to drive this whole marketplace business, which things would be really, really cool. On the other side of it is like, right now we have to go from like a global screen, like an overhead squat, right? For example, and then we have to go break it down into like, okay, the ankle, how's the internal hip rotation going, right? To really get into it. From this, we might be able to eliminate a lot of tests and really consolidate the whole movement screening process, because now again, 3D motion capturing, you look at closed chain, and then if you want to go to open chain, you can go to open chain. Closed chain, remember, it's like having both feet on the ground. So like be able to look, like when they squat, like yes, they're having right knee pain, but is it coming from their left shoulder, or is it coming from their left ankle that now is causing this overload effect? And we'll be able to see that very easily and clearly. And we can also track objects. So we check barbells, we can check golf clubs, we can check balls. So it's really rad to kind of think about. Our goal is like, how do we democratize biomechanics? How do we bring it to the masses, right? How do we really empower coaches and users, because it's not one size fit all. Like we really want to kind of think about, it's like it's going to be the iPhone of the future of how you look at movement, and I just think it's going to be fascinating, because then if you think about it from another standpoint, that it will automate the whole exercise selection category, right? Like, okay, they go through this screen. Can they squat bilaterally? Can that? Okay, they can. Okay, so boom, let's eliminate all squatting from this database, and we'll go just boom right from all single leg stuff that matches up with them. That's going to help them correct and really give you clear focus. And now you're going to be a sniper approach. And I think it's also going to elevate the whole coaching experience, because now we're going to take our coaches that are low to mid tier coaches and make them excellent coaches, because now we're going to be giving them the right information and give them clear focus of where to drive the intent and drive the innovation and drive the initiative going forward.
So yeah, I guess the next question, and AI is the first thing that comes to mind for me as you're talking, and does that not become an automated thing where we almost get a chance to eliminate the majority of human need, the human coach, of once you're picking that stuff up?
I think it's going to make the human coach more valuable, right? It's going to make the human coach, because now if you think about like, well, what coaches have to do right now, right? They have to, let's just say they're in a private sector, right? They have to, manage their sessions, manage the payments, do their assessments and screening, write their programming, have the understanding of program design and program knowledge, right? And then also be a great coach at executing and motivating and driving behavior change. I mean, that's a lot for one person to manage, right? That now they can just be focused on just being a great coach and coaching and delivering those exercises and really creating a dynamic in-person experience. And then they're not making these mistakes that, because, and the cool thing about machine learning and which drives AI is that, we make mistakes and as human beings in the minutia of program design. Like, we may miss something because we're tired or fatigued, but they can't critically think like a human being, right? It can't be they can't think
Yet.
inside the box. Yeah, I still think you're always going to need a human, right? Humans, like, we need community, we need human connection, right? But if we can make humans better and make their skill sets really showcase and stand out, I think that's where this is going. And for that to happen, though, we have to have massive amounts of the right data, right?
Mm,
Because if not, if we don't, at the end of the day, AI has been around since 1956. Let's be clear. That's how we won World War II. I guess not anything new. What is new is the amount of data collection we're getting, right? So now we have the right data. That's the most important thing. Any of these models, anybody talks about AI and machine learning, like, you have to really understand, like, what are they being trained on? Like, what is a neural systems being trained on? And because that's really going to drive the how great the information you're getting back. So I think by getting high validity data through these systems, I think it's going to be really, really cool and really drive human performance to the next level.
yeah, that's exciting, man. I think we'll keep challenging that. Well, I think those of us with a little bit of skepticism are going to keep bringing up Terminator and and that extreme version of it. But I think that is at this point, until that happens and we can't control it. I think we have to look at it as a tool, and whatever industry you're in, fitness, healthcare, we just have to look at it as a tool. And I'm very hopeful. I'm doing a cholesterol series looking at, especially men going in, trying to prevent heart disease. I'm hopeful that that's something that over the next 5 years or so, we're able to get a much better perspective on, just from the way AI is able to process information now, the data that's
Hmm.
getting put out there. Because yeah, I talked to a cardiologist, I talked to a GP, I talked to a functional medicine practitioner, and kind of got. They say if you talk to 10 different clinicians like that, you're getting 11 different opinions. So hopefully that can put things together and simplify. And again, you did a great job of breaking down those elements of fitness that, hey, you just put these pieces together, that takes care of 90% of things. So we're now getting down to the minutia, and the folks who want to get that extra 1%, or again 10 yards on their drive, or things like that. So yeah, that's awesome. So you mentioned that. Any other products you want to talk about with THP?
I mean, we're always working on stuff. Like, we launched. I think one of the things that was been lacking in our industry is, kind of like your scoreboard approach, right? If we talked about, hey, how good was the Yankees compared to the Mets, which we know is not comparable. You go, what scoreboard say? How many championships they have, right?
Right.
And I think one thing we've been working on twofold. We did one thing we launched a few years ago. What I used to work for Nike, so I used to work for Nike Spark back in the day. So we did a lot of testing on athletes, combine testing, which is good. But we had a Spark rating, and we kind of relooked at it, kind of brought it back when I managed a big facility down in Mesa. We had ran 25,000 square foot performance center down in East Mesa here in Arizona. We brought back total athlete score, right? So total athlete score is using a Z score to quantify athleticism, just nuts and bolts, right? You can look it up. It's been well researched, well documented. So we brought back total athlete score and we integrated technology. So here we've done a total athlete score for golf. We had one for speed and agility using Let's React, if you're familiar with that, radar testing to measure change direction forces. Force plates, Hawkins force plates, love Hawkins, right? Really been working with those guys for a long time. And so bringing those two technologies in, what we did with there, we had a total athlete score, we had a lower body power score, change direction score, and a linear speed score. Now, fast forward, what we've done for golf is that we've done the same thing without using Proteus, Hawkins force plates, and Output Sports, right? Output Sports is an IMU sensor that can measure mobility, stability, velocity, angular velocity. It's a dynamic tool we love to use. And so we launched a total outfit for golf, which has been really neat to see. It's some of the correlations. We've been seeing club head speed, like a few things is, counter move jump without arms. Relative net braking force is a great predictor, like how relative their body weight, how hard they stop and be able to stop their weight and change directions, how much force they can produce in the braking. It's been a great predictor of club head speed and overall. And then on the we do a mid thigh pull, belt mid thigh pull, and there rate of force development from 0 to 150 milliseconds, we've really seen a tremendous indicator of what's the rate of force development, how fast they can create power and force, and how quickly. And at 0 to 150 milliseconds has been another great predictor of club head speed. So if we really look at those two things, we can really predict what's their club head speed and are they reaching their physical potential matching up with their golf skills. So that's been really, really cool. On the other side, we also launched using output our athlete scorecard. So every 6 weeks, based on a battery of tests from mobility, stability, strength testing, aerobic testing, 10-minute assault bike, which you're probably very familiar with. That's a great tester. We use a watt bike. We have a watt bike here using the 6
It's
second.
10 minutes now. I remember the 6-minute. I didn't do 10 minutes.
You can do the 10-minute one.
I think it was the modified Cooper test, so it was the 6-minute. But
yeah, so we did 10 minutes.
Oh, okay. No, the OPEX, it was the 10-minute. Okay.
OPEX was 10. OPEX was 10.
Okay,
Yeah.
I remember. Now, I think I blocked that in my brain. Yes.
Yeah, you probably went brain dead for a while and blocked it out,
Yeah.
So bringing that score, and so now people can see like how they're progressing, because I think one of the biggest things we miss is like, what's the feedback loop? What's the feedback loop for how well you're progressing your programming? How successful? And if they're not having success, that's not bad, right? It's a great opportunity for coaches to coach and really have a real conversation. Like, hey, are we doing enough of the work, enough of the right work? Are you doing the stuff outside from recovery to make change, right? So having that, and then most of the time, like, pain drives motivation more than success, right? Very few people, once they're having success, want to go to the next level. Most people that have success, they want to take time off because they've had success. So, looking at that, and that's been a great thing that we've been launching here and really launching globally in our community in the next by September we'll be fully launched, and that's been really cool. Clients really love to see their feedback loop, and we've been doing a lot of using the output. We've tried Purge. We looked at Purge. Purge was a great, phenomenal tool too, but output's been more suited for what we need. And using velocity based training in different populations has been a lot of fun. Like, you can really see the gamification and really drive intent. So we've been doing that for quite a few years, and that's been a really game changer for us.
Yeah, something new that is coming up. I've heard through that podcast circuit. We kind of mentioned some of the names before. Is powerpenia. So there's osteopenia. You might be familiar with this, but just for the listener, the fact that as we age, we lose power, the ability to generate power, and that's a very good indicator of our overall functionality. So what I'm hearing is, as you're talking, is, do you think there's a way to take that again and better assess power? Again, there's some simple tests we can do in like the normal rehab space, physical therapy space. We can look at sit to stand, that kind of thing. But is there a better way to get that you see that we could maybe be assessing as people, especially getting older? Club head speed, things like that is fantastic, but not every human being is gonna look at that. So I'm thinking general practicality carryover.
Yeah.
Do you think there's any application there?
Oh, 100%. 100%. Like, even just doing a seated med ball chest pass, right? And a sit up and throw test or a downward slam test. You can do that, using a tape measure and med ball, or you can go to the higher levels and look at velocity using like an output support sensor, right? Or a camera system, whatever you want to use. But I think looking at power, I mean, one of the big things that we love to do with every single client is they skip every single session. All of our clients skip, which I think is a fundamental low power thing that really helps skate mechanics, everything else, right? Skip forward, skip backwards, skip laterally, right? Every single client, no matter whether they're an elite athlete or they're a 75-year-old woman coming in here, as long as their movement screen is okay and they allows them, they have enough movement ability to skip, we have them skipping, right? This is low power development. Everybody here we're a big fan of, I think one of the things we get away from is, and people knock it, whatever, is doing a little bit low level footwork, right? Ladders, low hurdles, right? Like, we have to change directions. We have to live in 3Ds. That means we have to train in 3D. And if you think about golf and baseball, one of the two primary markets we've worked with is that, yes, in golf, yes, they're 2 feet on the ground, but they're constantly pushing unilateral direction. They're pushing lateral, they're pushing horizontal, they're pushing forward, they're pushing back, they're pushing rotationally, and ladder drills are super effective for that. And just getting that base level athleticism instead of just moving a sagittal plane, like, we got to move in different levels. And, when they're ready, get them out there, throwing med balls, doing chops and lifts, like, all those patterns are great. And I think applying that to all populations, because as you know, Doc, the first thing you lose is not strength, it's elasticity, right? So we got to keep training elasticity as we age. I mean, jump roping is a great way to do it too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to not pop an Achilles as I say that, and then by the next episode, hopefully I don't go out and do something stupid. But but yes, that's definitely one that tendon strength is a big piece of that puzzle too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Again, my mind's going a bunch of different directions, but yes, I love it. I love all the things you said, and thinking of again how to integrate some of these myself. Things I've also neglected maybe in some of my stuff, but for the most part, I'm happy we're aligned on a lot of the same things as well. That I do incorporate skipping the ladder, all that fun in.
And if
In
they
my
can't skip, just have march, right?
yeah.
Just have marching, right? March forward, march backwards, march laterally, right? I mean, pickleball, as we know, is like one of the most injured sports in the country now, um, because they went from 0 to 100. They went from
Hmm.
walking and jogging to change directions at high force. I mean, you got to think about the load. I mean, just on the knee alone, changing from forward to backwards, from 7 to 14 times body weight, right?
Hmm.
Like they have to be ready for that type of load and control to really make that momentum and changes.
Absolutely, yeah. Pickleball is another one that if I just specialized in that, call myself the pickleball doc, I'd be doing pretty well. I think I'd be. It's pretty big out
Somebody
here
should pick
in the
that up.
Boulder area. Yeah, yeah. I think I've seen a few people do that. I just doesn't feel right to me. Um, but yeah. I want to be respectful of your time, the listeners' time. Any other big thoughts or things you want to share with the folks before we let you go?
No, I think it's going to be a great time for fitness, right? I think it's a great time for fitness, health, and well being. Um, I think it's going to be a movement change in the next few years. I think you're going to see a lot of dynamic shifts into how we function as an industry. I think the industry is already it's elevating, right? It's elevating. It's thanks to the humans, thanks to the Andy Galpins of the world, thanks to Peter Tia. I mean, all those guys are really bringing fitness to the forefront and making it part of the dinner conversation, right?
Mhm.
So, I mean, you're seeing a lot more, thanks to like Whoop, Oura Ring, Apple Watch, right? Like a lot of people are drinking less because they're seeing the impact of alcohol, right? And how it affects them. So I think all these things are fantastic. I think it's gonna as long as we can, get a hyper specialization, think about how do we get to more of a reach. Can we improve other populations except beyond the hyper specialized health guy? How do we get it out more, right? How do we make it more accessible? How do we make this information more relevant? I think that's going to be the next step for us as an evolution of industry, and I think we're going to move into a new spectrum here in the next 2 years.
I still think we need a Mr. Rogers of it all.
Could be you.
I
You could be that
could be me.
guy.
Could be. My wife thought literally we talked about some version of that. She was going to do it for her specialty, but yeah, so something I think that we need. That's what we're in the attention age. So you got to take again. I certainly respect and appreciate all the way you broke things down, those output scores. But yeah, I feel like most folks listen and just want to be like, okay, like where can I go do that? And if they're willing to pay you and able to pay you to do that whole test and battery a test and go through their results, fantastic. But I think we need to find a way to make that accessible to everyone. Of how long can you stand on one leg? How many sit to stands can you do? How far can you throw a ball? That kind of stuff.
100%.
And yeah, how fast can you run a mile? How much power can you generate in a 10-minute assault bike? No, we don't need to do that. We need to get that out of the system. No, the 10-minute assault bike test. Don't do it. Mr. Spencer Tatum, appreciate your time. I think we have all your links in the show notes already, but tell folks best place to find you, contact you if they have questions or follow up.
Yeah, very easy. You can email me at spencer@thp.fit. You can also check us on our website, www.thp.fit. You can also reach out to Instagram at thp.fit. So super simple. Looking forward to any communication or conversations going forward. And Doc, I really appreciate the time and it's been fun.
Yes, sir. Signing off. I know I got at least 1% better. I hope everyone listening